Let us start our today's class on the difference between the Paharias and the Shautals. Yes, there are some differences between the Paharias and the Shautals, and we have to find out those differences during that time, and let us discuss now about these differences one after another. Let us take the case of the Paharias. Number one, the Paharias were original forest tribals of the Rajmahal Hill, and their life was marked by constant mobility. Their life was actually a life of constant mobility from one place to another place. Number two, their livelihood was symbolized by the hoe and intimately connected to the forest. So their life was very much symbolized by the hoe and very much their life actually was very much connected with the forests. They earned their livelihood as hunters, shifting cultivators, as food gatherers, as charcoal producers, resin collectors, silkworm and cattle rearers. So these are the different things they actually did at that time. They lived in the hardments within tamarind groves and rested in the shade of mango trees. They considered the entire region as their land. So they used to take that breath beneath the shadow of mango trees, and actually their identity was actually they wanted to identify themselves with that particular portion of that land which they thought that they belonged from that particular land. They considered the entire region as their land, basis of their identity as well as survival, and resisted the intrusion of outsiders. They actually identified that land with their identity, and they resisted the outsiders to come within that land. The Paharias regularly raided the plains where settled agriculturalists lived, asserting power over the settled communities. So it was it was almost become their process of living, that they hunted them, and raided in the plains areas where all the settled agriculturalists used to live, and they fiercely resisted any attempt by the British to pursue them to give up hunting, encourage settled agriculture. So they actually wanted to resist all these things which the British wanted to expand their settled area of land. The British wanted to make them somehow civilize and tame, and they actually resisted these activities. They were averse to the idea of settled agriculture. They were very much averse to the idea of settled agriculture and use of plow, refused to cut forests, continued to be turbulent. They refused to cut forest areas, and they wanted to remain as turbulent and suspicious of outsiders. They also very much suspicious of the outsiders. They resisted any activities from the outsiders. They insulted themselves from hostile forces carrying on war with outsiders. So they actually, whenever they thought it necessary, they even went at the length of starting war against the outsiders. So these are the basic lifestyle and basic behavior of these Paharias. But in contrast to the Paharias, what we see in the Sautals, number one, compared to the Paharias, the Sautals' livelihood was symbolized by the plow. But in case of the Sautals, their livelihood was very much symbolized with plow. They gave up their earlier life of mobility and settled down. They gave up their earlier way of living, and they came in contact with the British. They settled down in a particular land, and they wanted even to expand their land as agricultural land. They were ideal settlers, so they were called ideal settlers even by the British. Cleared forests and plowed land with vigor. The Sautals were encouraged by the British officers to counter Paharia resistance. So the British thought that it would be better to expose the Sautals to resist the Paharias. And by Jamindars to reclaim land and undertake settled cultivation. So in this way they wanted to undertake settled cultivation. After the demarcation of Damani Koli, they undertook civil cultivation of a range of commercial crops for the market, as for example tobacco and mustard. So when they received a portion of their land, which came to be known as Damoni Koli, they undertook cultivation. They even went to the length of cultivating those materials which are very much needed by the market, like tobacco and mustard. Unlike the Paharias, who were suspicious of outsiders, Sautals dealt with traders and moneylenders. So while the Paharias resisted the outsiders, the Sautals came in touch with the traders, even the moneylenders. Not only did Sautal settlements expand rapidly, over time their population increased as cultivation expanded. So not only the Sautal settlement expanded, over time their population was also increased simultaneously, and as cultivation expanded, an increased volume of revenue flowed into the company coffers. So the company people also received a huge amount of money as revenue from the Sautals, and the Sautals expanded their land, cultivated land. The Sautals resisted attempts by the British, the moneylenders, and Jamindars to dislodge them from idle world dominically. But these Sautal population even resisted any attempt from the British, the moneylenders and the Jamindars to dislodge them from their land, which came to be known as Dominically, by armed rebellion in 1850s. So they even went to the length of armed rebellion against the British, against the Jamindars, against the moneylenders. To appease the Sautals, the British curbed the Sautal Pargana from district of Bhagalpur and Birbhum. So to appease these Sautal people, the British ultimately had to give a definite portion of land from the district of Bhagalpur and Birbhum, and that land was demarcated particularly for the Sautals. So these are the difference between the Sautals and the Paharias. But question now, again there is a question that how did the American Civil War affect the lives of the Indian riots? Now this is a different question, and we had to explore the effect of the American Civil War of 1861 on the lives of the riots of India. Before the American Civil War, 3/4 of the raw cotton imports into Britain came from America. So before the starting of the Civil War in 1861, almost 3/4 of raw cotton, it was imported by Britain from America. But after the starting of the American Civil War, the situation began to change, and and England had to depend on India. The outbreak of the Civil War led to drying up of these supplies and increase in raw cotton exports to Britain from India. By 1862, over 90% of the cotton imports into Britain were coming from India. So by the year 1862, almost 90% of that cotton was imported by Britain from India. The effect of the Civil War on the lives of the riot in India were thus: actually, 1. Increased advances of urban cotton shakers, through them to the rural moneylenders, to encourage riot to undertake and extend cotton cultivation. So it actually the money began to flow from that time onwards, from the shakers to the rural moneylenders, and from the rural moneylenders to the riots for expanding their cultivation of raw cotton. 2. riots suddenly found access to limitless credit and advance of rupees 100 for every acre planted with cotton and long-term loans. So suddenly the riots of India, they found that actually they found access to limitless credit, and that credit was given to them by the moneylenders. An advance of rupees 100 for per acre. It was a huge amount of then period to encourage riot to undertake and extend cotton cultivation. And next one was between 1860 to 64, cotton acreage doubled. So cotton production from 1860 to 1864, it was almost doubled. But the profit did not percolate to the riot. By and large, cotton expansion meant heavier debt for the riot. But actually, what happened, though cotton boom was happened during that period, but the profit did not percolate to the riots. The riots, they did not receive the profit of that cotton boom. By and large, cotton expansion meant heavier debt for the riots. By 1865, the boom ended with the end of Civil War. But from 1865, that cotton boom, it was ended with the end of American Civil War. Indian cotton exports to Britain declined, and automatically when the Civil War was over in America, England again looked into America, and it was actually what happened that Indian cotton export to Britain automatically declined. The riot was the hardest hit, but it heated none other than the riots. While the prices of raw cotton declined, on the other credit to riots dried up. So when the raw cotton production, it was declined, automatically the credit giving procedure of the moneylenders, it was also minimized. The moneylenders raised demand on the riots for repayment of outstanding debts, and very naturally, from that time onwards, the moneylenders put pressure on the riots to give or repay the outstanding debts which was given to them. Moneylenders refused to grant a loan to not only for cultivation but for the basic need of the riots. Even the moneylenders from that time onwards did not like to give money to the riots for maintaining their livelihood event. Moneylenders not only refused to extend loan but taking advantage of the extreme plight of riot, violated a variety of customary norms which hitherto regulated the relationship between the moneylenders and the riots. So from that time onwards, this relationship between the riots and the moneylenders, it was also strained because of the moneylenders' activities. They not only wanted to give money to the riots, but taking advantage of this extreme plight of the riots, violated various basic norms of relationship through devious, deceitful ways, by maintaining the limitation law and forging accounts, debts and bonds. The riot was reduced to status of abject poverty and increased indebtedness. There were very much what to say, dubious deeds or bonds, deceitful ways through which the moneylenders, actually moneylenders did these things, this type of deceitful ways, by manipulating the deeds, the bonds, the accounts. The money increased in a huge amount for the riots. The riots was reduced to the status of subject poverty and increased indebtedness. Thus, the American Civil War, which led to temporary cotton boom along with the new revenue system entailing high revenue demands, subject to revision, the diverse ways of the moneylenders all adversely affected the life of the riots. So these different ways that the moneylenders started after the American Civil War, it actually harassed the condition of the Indian riots. No doubt some rich peasants did gain. Yes, it can be said without any doubt that a portion of riots, I say, I just want to mean that those who were rich peasants, they gained to an extent. But for the larger majority, American Civil War and in its wake, cotton expansion meant heavier debt. But to a large extent, just after the American Civil War, the riots, the life of the riots, it became miserable due to heavy debt that they incurred from the middle person or moneylenders, and which dubiously, what to say, deceitfully, which was multiplied by the moneylenders. So the American War of Independence of 1861, it had some adverse effect on the Indian moneylenders. It had severe effect on their livelihood even. It actually gave some amount of benefit for the rich peasants only, and it had actually no benefit for the riots in general. So thank you very much for hearing me about the difference between the Shautals and the Paharias, and how the American Civil War affected the life of the riots of India. Thank you very much.